Okay, once you've found whatever image you're going to use for your tile, you're going to want to make sure it's the right size for the tile, and you can cut it out so that it's going to fit. All right, let's say I'm going to do this Bruin symbol. Just want to make sure it fits. You can either draw your own image or you can use one from the internet. Okay, so we've got our Bruin symbol here. We lay it right on top of our tile, and we're going to get a toothpick, and you're going to start to make a dotted line by puncturing through the paper to create a line. Okay, so you come through, and as you're puncturing the lines, it's making these little dots on the clay that you'll be able to connect a line with, and it's basically going to transfer your image to the clay so that you know where to carve and where not to carve. Actually, those are the things you're going to be thinking of as you're working. What's going to be the background? What's going to be the foreground? Okay, so you're going to puncture all around your image to transfer it to the tile, and then you'll be ready to carve. Now, we also have some stencils that you could use instead. We have all sorts of different stencils in the art room. So if you wanted to do some kind of mandala type of image, or here we've got another one, Peace on Earth. So you could lay, if you wanted to do a stencil, you lay it down. Even if it doesn't all fit, it would still be nice. It's still going to be a nice design. And you would actually roll with the tile, with the roller. And when you pull off, you're going to be able to see a slight indentation of the stencil. And then you'll go ahead and decide what's going to be carved and what's going to be raised. So like we've talked about, a relief means to raise by lowering the plane around it. So if this is your image, what you'll start to do is think about what's going to be the background and what's going to be raised. And we have all sorts of different tools that you can start to press into the clay to either push it down or carve it out. So we have these ribbon tools here. Some are rounded, some have triangles with points. So you could choose one of these tools and start to carve the background of your tile. So you'll just kind of want to plan for a minute what's going to be behind the image and what do you want raised, because some images could be a little bit tricky. For example, let's say you have a yin-yang symbol. If you had a yin-yang symbol, you're going to have to decide what's going to be recessed and sunken, and what will be raised. So for something like a yin-yang, I'm looking for mine, it's going to get a little bit trickier. So you'll just have to kind of plan ahead before you start carving. And you don't have to carve all of it though. You can also just press it in. So sometimes it might help just to push in around different areas that maybe it'd be harder to carve. You can, like let's say there's little areas in here that you want to get to. You can actually take a number of different tools and just press them in. So instead of carving it out, you can always just press it down. And this also raises the surface right next to it. By pressing the clay down, you're raising the piece next to it. So it's going to be a combination of pressing in and carving in. We've got the clay to a good leather hard consistency so that you can just start in with your carving. And your tile's going to go through kind of an awkward stage before it gets really nice. It'll get a little bit awkward. You'll see some scrape lines. I'll show you what I mean. It's really nice to add a border if possible, because then you know where to stop carving. I have no border here on my edges, and so when I carve, I'm just going to carve all the way out and carve to the edge. Now the trouble with not having a border is sometimes people, students will start to carve so much that it gets really skinny in here, and that's when it could start to crack. So when you're doing your carving, you only want to carve less than halfway down the tile. So less than halfway, this tile is about, let's say, maybe a half an inch thick. So you could only carve down like 1/4 inch. And as you're carving, you're going to see all these lines here that get created. That's okay. Sometimes those lines can be part of the design. Maybe they're all radiating out. Or with your finger, you can just come through at some point, it doesn't have to be right away, and smooth those lines. We also have some smoothing tools. But basically what you're doing is putting pressure on the clay and smoothing it. I feel like a lot of students feel like they need a tool to do it, but really you just need your hand to smooth it away. So it's going to be a series of carving and pressing in around your image, and the end results are really astounding when we have that raised image at the end. So in class I'll show you some finished tiles, but for now I just wanted you to understand the process where we can push and carve away. And if you do want to do a border, it's just going to be about 1 centimeter all around. You would take a straight edge, and with your toothpick, or I have a needle tool and a straight edge here, you would just go around and make a slight border. I'm just using the stencil like a ruler. A slight border around your design. And this is a great way to know when to stop carving, so that when your carving tool reaches this border, you stop. For example, let's say we're carving this area here. We would carve to the border, and that's it. So carving out some in here. Some students want to know, how far do you go down? Only go less than halfway. But often students think that they're done at this point, when really you can't see a defined edge here. We really want to define the edge. And what I mean by that is we want to see where it's sunken down. So with popsicle sticks or wooden tools, here's a popsicle stick. You can see how well this works. We really want to see that edge, because that's what's going to make it so interesting, like a relief tile, is if we see that edge where it gets lower, where it's raised and where it's lower. A lot of students get afraid to carve and they won't make this so that it's a definite lower plane right next to a higher plane. Now you couldn't press it all out because the clay would have nowhere to go, but you can carve a little and press a little, and then you can create more of a dramatic edge here. See how we see an edge in here where it got deeper? That's what we're looking for. I know it doesn't look like anything yet, but as you continue to carve, you'll see your image start to be raised and become your relief tile.